Philadelphia Eagles in the first game of Sunday absolutely crushed the Commanders, 55-23. Was not a close game. The final score ended up being a lot bigger of a differential than the game was for most of it, but the Eagles absolutely stomped them out in the fourth quarter, and they turned what was a 12-point game into a 32-point win. So, Kevin, as our homegrown Eagles fan on this podcast, you've been rocking with this team since the days of Michael Vick, and now to see them going back to the third Super Bowl of your fandom, and hopefully for you, they end up getting their second ring. But just take me through how you were feeling during this NFC Championship game that was hardly even competitive.
You know, Shaun, before I get started, I do have a request from my cousin. He is a Commanders fan. He asked for you to go first so he can hear the praise of the season before he has to hear the three of us get on him, because he saw that you were the only person to choose the Commanders. And he says, let's let Shaun talk first because Kevin's going to just talk shit on us. So I would love to hear Shaun go first. So I was going to give the listeners what they wanted, Shaun. They would love to hear you go first.
I feel honored. What's your cousin's name?
His name is Tyson.
Shout out to Tyson. I appreciate you, Tyson, because it's rare when I go first on a game recap, and I really appreciate that. Yes, I picked the Commanders. I was the only one who picked the Commanders. And part of the reason behind that is, number one, I didn't want to see that everybody graphic for an NFC Championship game because I knew Kaz and Kevin were going to pick the Eagles. Toddy is a smart man. He was going to pick the Eagles, and I didn't want to see that everybody graphic, but I also have become a believer in Jayden Daniels, understandably so. And for the Commanders to go from a team that some of us thought Toddy was crazy for saying the Commanders were going to go to the playoffs, and to have them go not to the playoffs, but to the NFC Championship game led by rookie quarterback Jayden Daniels, that is a hell of an accomplishment. Everyone was talking shit about Cliff Kingsbury. Everybody was talking shit about Dan Quinn. Even the 49ers former assistant GM, Adam Peters, and saying, oh, they're piecing this all together. It's not going to work. Zach Ertz is old. Meanwhile, Zach Ertz had how many catches yesterday? Like 9 catches. He tried to have a revenge game against the Eagles.
Man.
Yeah, he was stupid. I think he had 10 catches for $1 something. I can
he was over 100 yards.
Oh, yeah. He had 10 catches.
Yeah, Zach Ertz. Yeah, Toddy. And so Zach Ertz, he had himself a game, and everyone's saying he's washed. And so for the Commanders, I understand that Commanders fans want to make it as far as they possibly can. And now the fact that the season is officially over, it's a disappointment. But as I've talked for weeks, one of my coworkers at the Union Democrat here in Sonora, he's a man who's 63 years old. He has seen a lot of terrible Washington football for decades. And what he has been saying to me ever since they clinched a playoff spot is he's just happy every single step of the way they get there, because he knew that they were playing with house money, and he knew not to take it for granted. And when I was talking to him after they beat Detroit, he was just like, man, I just couldn't believe it. And I'm just enjoying it and living in the moment. And I'm so glad that Commanders fans are able to enjoy that. I know, and Kevin, you're a Sacramento Kings fan. Kaz, you're not big on the NBA, but there are plenty of Philadelphia 76ers fans who absolutely hate Josh Harris, the brand new owner of the Commanders, because he also owns the 76ers. And because he's the owner of the 76ers, the Sixers haven't been posting any content supporting the Eagles or congratulating the Eagles or anything. And there's plenty of 76ers fans who are upset with Josh Harris. Meanwhile, Commanders fans are praising the Lord for Josh Harris, for getting them out of the dark days of Daniel Snyder. But this season in its entirety was just an absolute win for the Commanders. And even having your season end with a 32-point loss, the fact that they got this far, especially this coming from a 49ers fan who, I can't speak for Toddy, but for myself, I said earlier this year, I don't care about regular season wins anymore, because I'm just waiting for the playoffs to start, because I've gotten spoiled as a 49ers fan. That's truly being spoiled. Meanwhile, Commanders fans, they were just hoping and praying to get to the playoffs. And for them to get to the playoffs and to win 2 road games, it was an accomplishment in itself. There was definitely some politicking behind my picks. So not only did I not want to see the everybody graphic, and Kevin, I'm sure you caught this at the end of last week's episode, but Kaz put his investigative journalist hat on, and he was like, why are you picking against the Eagles? Or why do you hate on the Eagles? And he was asking me all these questions and getting to the root of it all. But so there was some politicking. I didn't want to see the everybody graphic. But I've also, after being crowned the regular season champ of our pick'em, I've been doing terrible in the playoffs. And so I just knew if I want to try to get back into this, I got to pick against Kevin because Kevin is way in the lead right now. I had to pick against Kevin. I knew he was picking the Eagles, so I'm like, all right, I'm going Commanders. And just for that small chance, just for the tiny chance that the Commanders actually won that game, I would have been able to come on here, puff out my chest, feel good about myself as the only one who picked the Commanders. Instead, I was wrong. And shout out to Cousin Tyson for wanting me to go first and hear about his Commanders, because just like my coworker at the newspaper I work at, also my half brother, his stepfather is a Commanders fan. He's a Commanders fan who still very passionately refers to them as the team name that starts with an R. And there are just so many Commanders fans out there that are so passionate about their team that have suffered for so long. And I can also relate to that as a Kings fan. That was part of my explanation last week to Kaz was I'm a Kings fan. I've been through a lot, so I can kind of relate to what Commanders fans have gone through for a long time. And so just tip of the cap to Washington. It was a great season. The fact that they got this far is an accomplishment in itself. I know it's probably extra bittersweet considering the fact that they got bounced by 32 points and no less by a division rival. But they should be proud that they even got here. And so congrats to the Commanders for an absolutely great season. Now, Kevin, if you could write their obituary for me.
So my wife is kind of a Lions fan, and she's like, Kevin, how did you guys bounce back from losing both of your coordinators? I said, it took a lot of time. So before I get going, I just want to give a congratulations to Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore, because what they have done for us this season has taken this team to levels that I'm sure Kaz and I, after watching us lose 6 games in a row, thought we would never be able to reach. For us to only add 2 assistant coaches, 2 rookies, and Zach Bond, and for all of them to begin the accolades and the love they should have been getting all season long goes to show. The second time we played Washington, it was Quinyon gave up his first touchdown. All year I come on here week on and week out and say he hasn't given up a touchdown A, B, C, and D. And Toddy said, well, I don't know, Kevin. Quinyon's hurt. Is he going to be Quinyon? And, Scary Terry, a lot of people don't get to go to Guantanamo Bay 3 times in 1 year, but you got a special pass. There's a special place in Guantanamo Bay for you. He ran 48 routes against Quinyon. Oh, no, he ran 48 routes in general, and 36 were on Quinyon. 1 catch, 7 yards, 4 targets, and an interception. Terry McLaurin, the second game, blew up. The first game, we had him in a box, and he really couldn't do anything, and the offense was stagnant. This game, we got to see basically the same thing. And the only thing that didn't look like the same game in Washington was, instead of it being Brian Robinson Jr. who fumbled, it's Austin Eckler. This special teams unit, man, I told Alyssa, I don't know if you guys watched the very first kickoff when Luke McCaffrey bumbled it in the end zone. I said, they're not ready.
Yeah, like on the
he was ready to run it, and he fumbled it. I said, Alyssa, it's about to get fucking ugly. They're hesitant, and all I heard from the guy under me, for the audio only listeners, that is Jaevon Toddy, was, Kevin, that's not the same Jayden. That was how many weeks ago? Look at what he's done in the playoffs. And I said, Toddy, you got to stop letting these one-offs make you feel some kind of way. The Rams beat the Vikings, and oh shit, the Rams are going to go into Philly and they're going to do this. Oh my God, LeBron James meme. Look what they did to the Vikings. And then a week later, the Commanders destroy a freshman level defense, 6 stringers. We got practice squad guys. When you got your 4th string guy, Terry Luke, going out for the game, the very first play of the game, it kind of just embodies the Lions season. And they went out there and they lit them up. And you know what? Where the Lions not prepared, you can say whatever you want. You have to give the Commanders the respect for going in there and getting that thing done. But I have to tell everybody, we're not the Detroit Lions. We're very much healthy. And for them to miss their center and for that guy to have to look up every time and see Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis, you got Jalen Carter. We're seeing these guys really flourish. These Georgia guys are coming in, playing and play out. We even saw a Jordan Davis sack. I couldn't tell you last time he got a sack. He's in there to stop the run, and now he's attacking the quarterback. All week we heard, well, Kevin, Jalen Hurts hasn't been throwing the ball. He hasn't been doing this. And it's funny because I tell everybody the reason that's a funny stat is because he missed 2 games. So he goes 2 games with zeros and then comes out and throws for less than 150 2 games. So he said after the game that they let him out of the straitjacket. They let him sling it. And the Washington Commanders DC said if they were going to have Jalen Hurts run like a running back, we're going to hit him like a running back. And now he's cleaning out his locker. So that's just an example of, you don't really talk too much before you see something like that, especially with a divisional opponent that you've seen. This will now be going on your third time. But that's enough about, Jalen Hurts and who he's better than and who he's not better than and how he just keeps beating all these top 4 guys. And that's another conversation for another day. But Saquon Barkley, God bless you. God bless you. If you guys could have saw me that first Washington drive, third down after third down, fourth down after fourth down, and then they ease up on my soul and kick a field goal. I said, Alyssa, we have to punch him in the mouth. We have to. After what we just saw, we got to go down there and do something. And Saquon goes to the left, untouched, breaks 3 tackles and takes it to the crib. Toddy gets my snaps after a touchdown and I take a shot. I was screaming to the good lords. It's kind of what's up, John?
So you're active on Snapchat, but you won't text us back?
No, I'm not active. It's just after I celebrate my touchdowns with a shot. All
right, well, you're going to have to add me on Snap so I can see them all throughout the Super Bowl.
Hey, Toddy loves them. Toddy loves them. Toddy always replays them. I always get a notification that Toddy replayed my video. But I don't want to go too much on this, but A.J. Brown completely made Lattimore look like a dog. He was just out there walking his dog. And there is a comment on the Marshawn Lattimore video that I wanted to bring to the group.
Oh.
And it's from Jaevon Toddy. It says, Marshawn Lattimore is the Eagles' boogeyman. And I told Toddy, Kaz was there. Shaun, you were not here. I said, is he bringing a time machine? Because this Marshawn Lattimore, all he does is hold and grab. And for some reason, they loaded that box and put that man on an island. And every time I told Alyssa, just throw the ball. Just give him a chance. And A.J. Brown embarrassed him. So I know everyone was like, oh, Kevin, well, now it's Marshawn Lattimore and he's healthy and he got a couple games under him. And it's the same thing, PI after PI, and just giving it up. So I'm really happy to see what the Eagles are doing. We're able to not only run the ball, but we're able to throw the ball very well as well. And going into a Super Bowl, like I've been telling Toddy all day, I feel amazing. I don't feel like anybody in the world can stop what we got going. So I know that's a little bit of a preview for next week's episode, but the vibes are high. The vibes are high.
Yeah, Kevin, I feel like there's a range of memes that could describe exactly what you just said. And we'll start it out with Toddy's favorite, Drewski with the hands up. I thought Marshawn Lattimore was going to lock him up. I guess not. And then when it comes to the old take from Toddy, I just as much as him am a believer in Marshawn Lattimore. And Kevin, I know you have a special spot in your heart for Marshawn Lattimore because of where he went to school, the Ohio State University. But given the take that you just described before we hear from Kaz, I got a couple other memes that I just want to throw up on the screen. Some oldie but goodies that we've had here through 133 episodes of Stats Over Politics. Boo this man. Boo. And also, finally, the all-time classic. Toddy, we got a little.
I was waiting for
tissues, just a couple tissues for you from AJ. And so, Kaz, all of that said, before we hear from Jaevon about tonight's or yesterday's game, just how did you feel as you were watching the Eagles absolutely eviscerate the Commanders?
So I made a Snapchat after the game, and I also put it on my Twitter as well. And it's just me and my boys sitting there, and I was just like, people, and also put on my Instagram. I posted a video before the game started of Saquon, pounding his head, during the divisional game after going off for a 60-yard run, and I'm like, these guys are not ready for these psychopaths. That's what it was titled. And then after the game, it was just like, what did you guys expect? Like, I don't say things to feel good and hope. I say things because I believe. All season long, you guys have heard me talk about how I'm very harsh on Jalen Hurts. I meant what I meant. I said what I said, and he has proven me wrong. Me and Kevin even had private conversations about Jalen Hurts, about our thoughts about how good really is he, and who we can compare him to and whatnot. And that's not going to change when it comes to wide receiver ones and a QB one. Those are two positions I don't have any patience for. You deliver, and that's it. You deliver, and the stats should show. But seeing how Jayden panned out, I knew what it was going into this game because of the way the Washington fan base was acting. They were scared. How did I know they were scared? Because they was talking crazy. We're about to take over the league. You know you're not. You saw what happened in previous years and then some. You're not taking over the league. Why are you saying that? Whether it was photoshopped or not, I can't remember if it was proven, but they said they did it. They decorated a Rocky statue. Okay, you guys are scared. Then they're posting all these TikTokers and content creators posting these Jayden Daniels, like clips of Eagles fans saying we're gonna crush Jayden Daniels, and all of a sudden it just flips to some NBA young boy music and Jayden Daniels highlights. I'm like, you guys are scared. You're scared. How do I know this? Because I've been here before, and I'm gonna act like it. And so going into this game, I've been saying since last week, and I meant this. Again, the easiest route to the Super Bowl in my entire existence. I've never seen an easier route. Not that I don't respect all of our opponents, because any given Sunday, do you know how hard it would be being a 6 seed, a potential 7 seed, only got the 7 seed, barely got the 6 seed, sorry. Barely got it, mind you. It could have been Green Bay. They barely got it, okay? So in my eyes, I'm like, this is a 7 seed caliber team going against the best roster in football, who just got gifted a home game. You upset the Detroit Lions, and you think you're going to upset the 2 seeds. You're going to take out the 1 seed and the 2 seed and go and win the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, history shows that when an upset like that happens, that's usually where the season ends. So kudos to them for disturbing the peace and taking down the Detroit Lions. I knew off the jump, and I had been bold, 10 toes down, chest puffed out, ever since that clock hit 0 against that Commanders versus Lions. I'm like, we're going to the Super Bowl. I'm like, this ain't going to be close. But Jayden Daniels, but what? But we're looking back at the second game we had against them. The first game we handled no problem. But he had, remember, his ribs. It was his ribs. He wasn't 100%. Second game, Kenny Pickett. Everybody wants to just play around and act like that's not a thing. Oh, well, look what he did here. So-and-so touchdowns in the fourth quarter, da-da-da-da. No Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in that game. You also didn't have, again, Jalen Hurts. Kenny Pickett was one drop pass away from actually winning that game. But nobody wants to talk about that, and that's how you know how good your team actually is when people start moving the goalpost that crazy. You're moving it every which way to make it to look like Jayden Daniels is who he's not. I'll give the boys some credit. Good season, kid. This is bigger than that. The lights were too bright for you before you even show up to the stadium. This isn't LSU. This is much bigger than that. And respect to him. I like that he did what he did against Detroit, and that's fine. These things happen. It's going to happen next year, and the next year. Upsets they're a thing. They're going to happen. A 6 seed is going to take down, a 1 seed or a whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's going to happen. Not often, but it's going to happen. When that happened, I have never been more sure on a Super Bowl appearance again in my life. Now, we can talk about the game. Not really much to say about the game. We absolutely dominated them. We did exactly what we were supposed to do and then some, because Jalen Hurts also went off. Jalen Hurts was perfect. He was perfect. The entire game, I mean, even the 4th and 5 like 30-yard pass to AJ Brown was a fucking dot, to where it's like, how did you deny that? They sent the rush. He saw it, aired it out to AJ, right in the breadbasket. Perfect. Went on to score. Saquon Barkley, obviously, first 2 carries were 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. If you looked at that game after even just the first Saquon carry for a touchdown and thought to yourself, whether you're a Commanders fan, Eagles fan, the Mud Dogs fan, all right, if you're a fan of the Water Boy, and thought to yourself that this is going to end well for the Commanders, you're crazy. But I understand that this is football and people have to have these hot takes, and that's okay. I respect it. But I don't know what you guys have been seeing in Jayden Daniels that told you that this guy was going to give the Eagles a run for their money. And this is no hate. What did you guys see? What did you guys see as fans, or maybe even haters of him if he has any haters? I don't think he has any haters because he's a cool kid, right? I mean, he ain't done nothing wrong to nobody. We can all respect that. What did you see? Oh, well, rookie of the year. That's fine. Okay. And CJ Stroud was the same caliber of quarterback last year as well. And how'd that end for him? And before that, you had guys like Justin Herbert, rookie of the year. You got plenty of guys who've had these accolades. And what have you seen when they got to the playoffs? So why all of a sudden is everybody putting their biggest bag on the Commanders to even compete against the Eagles when we have the best roster in football and it's not even close? It's not even close. The closest roster in football to us was the Detroit Lions. And that's because their offense is high-powered. Collectively, it is the Eagles, and then I don't know who the hell else. Maybe the Ravens. So I'm like, I'm not trying to be cocky, and I even said that in my Snapchat / video that I shared on Twitter. I'm like, this is not no cocky shit. I had been chilling this entire game. I was chilling the second I got there. I was chilling. Trolling some Commanders fans, talking shit to them and whatnot because, there was deeper than we were. There's only 2 Eagles fans in the bar. No, 3, sorry. Some old guy and me, my boy. We walked in and we saw 5 Commanders fans. I'm like, I ain't never seen this in my life. I ain't never seen this.
So this is going to be a long day.
Hey, I came in, I said, y'all in the wrong place. I go, you think you're outnumbered, but really you're actually tremendously outnumbered. I go, because me alone, not including my guy, I'm like 50 Eagles fans. So therefore, you got to understand like what you signing up for. They giggled and laughed. And I sat there next to their table the whole time standing with beer in hand, standing the entire time. Just saying over and over again for 4 quarters, who the fuck is Jayden Daniels? And they sat there on their phones and they was calling the bartender over, ordering pictures of water. They ordered pictures of water. I'm like, I'm petty. Let me get a picture of beer. You know what I'm saying? Like let me do what a man does. You know what I mean?
Modelo with line.
You know what I'm saying? A couple lines, right? But no, it was just a game that as much as I want to dive super deep into it, just pure dominance. I mean, the Eagles are just a much better team. You have a 2 seed that was knocking on the door and being a 1 seed all the way up until the very end. So let's just call it what it is. Eagles are obviously a 1 seed caliber team for sure, going against a 6/7 seed. What do we expect? Any other year, we're going to say the Eagles would crush them. But Jayden Daniels, he had a really good year for a rookie. And guess what? After him, another rookie's going to do the same thing. And then after him, another rookie's going to do the same thing. There's got to be a good rookie quarterback at some point coming through the league. And it happens every year. It was Jayden Daniels. But outside of that, Washington had one of the worst defenses in the NFL entirely. I think they had the worst run defense in the NFL. And they're going against Saquon Barkley. What did you guys expect? And that's kind of where I've been lost. It's like, get real. Not one person that was a Commanders content creator or a Commanders fan on Twitter or any of these apps out there was saying, I just hope that we give the Eagles a run for the money. They're saying, nope, we're gonna beat them. And I'm like, okay. Let me go ahead and sit back, relax, and enjoy my popcorn. So just an expected win. And I'm just surprised that it came down to us playing a team just that's significantly much lesser than us to go to the Super Bowl. Like I said in the beginning, easiest route to the Super Bowl yet. The second they beat Detroit. I said we have to be LA. We have to be LA. I believe we played LA first, and they played.
Yeah, because they played on Saturday. Didn't they play on Saturday night? And then you guys were on Sunday.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
yep.
Yeah, and Kaz, just to add on to your point, because there had only been 5 rookie quarterbacks that have ever made a conference championship game. This isn't Shaun's pop quiz, but just starting things out, 1999, the first to do it, Shaun King. And I think that's pretty cool because he actually spells his name like me, Shaun. But then there was also Ben Roethlisberger in 2004, Joe Flacco 2008, Mark Sanchez in 2009, Brock Purdy in 2022. But what's so significant about Jayden Daniels being the 5th rookie quarterback to do so, and to follow up on Kaz's point, is you look at all of the other quarterbacks and where their defense is ranked entering that conference championship game. Brock Purdy and Ben Roethlisberger, both of their defenses were ranked number 1 in the NFL. You look at Mark Sanchez, Joe Flacco, Shaun King, all 3 of their defenses were ranked 3rd in the NFL. You look at Jayden Daniels, his defense was ranked 18th in the NFL this season, and he willed his team to a conference championship game. That's another thing that Tyson should be proud about with his team and about the future of his team with Jayden Daniels as the quarterback. Because even looking at this postseason, obviously yesterday, both home teams won their matchups. But going into conference championship weekend, You look at the road teams in these playoffs. The Commanders were 2-0. Everyone else 0-8. And so the Commanders have been the only team to win on the road in these playoffs, which is just crazy to think about. And finally, Toddy, before I pass it to you, this is one stat that I think all of us will get a kick out of and smile about, except for maybe one of our most loyal fans, Uncle Manny, because this is from Jeff Kerr of CBS. He says, the Eagles rushed for more touchdowns in the NFC Championship game. 7. The Eagles had 7 rushing touchdowns yesterday, which is more than the Cowboys had all season long. The Cowboys had 6 rushing touchdowns all season long. The Eagles had 7 yesterday. And so just kind of hits the nail on the head of how dominant this Eagles rushing game has been since the Giants gave up on Saquon Barkley and the Eagles capitalized. And so, Toddy, all of that said, I know we've covered the game pretty well to this point, but aside from myself and the politicking that I did, you were smart enough to pick the Eagles. And so just what was your unbiased take and perspective from this game? The mute god got you, so I'm going to help you out, and you got to unmute yourself because it won't let me.
Basically, what I was saying was Kevin and I talk a lot off air. Well, Kevin calls me and basically talks shit to me about how good his team is. Nobody can stop us, and this, that, and the third. Who's going to guard this person? Who's going to guard this person? And he has a very valid point. That was kind of what my thinking was going into the game. Yes, Jayden Daniels is a guy who has been literally played out of this world the entire playoffs. And yes, Kaz, CJ Stroud did something similar, but Jayden Daniels got to the AFC or the NFC Championship game. I don't think any people weren't even picking them to go to the playoffs. Not this guy. But I mean, if you kind of just look at how their team is constructed, this team was supposed to win like 8 games. It's Jayden Daniels and Terry McLaurin. Like, we didn't know who DME Brown was. We didn't know who Zacchaeus was. Luke McCaffrey. I mean, some guys might know just based off the last name, but I mean, he's pulling together a bunch of misfits. And they got all the way to the NFC Championship game. And I kind of say this now, like the Commanders were playing virtually with house money the entire playoffs, because it's like they're not even supposed to be here. They literally they got all new coaches, new ownership, new quarterback. Like everything's brand new, fresh. Like the first year of like this, they're supposed to be technically rebuilding still. And Jayden willed this team to the NFC Championship game. Now, as far as the team that they were playing against, they forced at least 3 turnovers a game. And that's going back to towards the end of last year. So you're trying to play against a team on the road, very hostile environment, and not turn the ball over when they averaged literally 3 turnovers a game. It's going to be very, very tough to win. Saquon Barkley, as soon as he touches the ball, 60-yard touchdown. I saw his overs for the longest run like of the day would be like 30 yards. Yeah, he cleared that by another 30 yards. It was a 60-yard, first play of the game. So I was like, when I saw that happen, I was like, okay, this could go one or two ways. Jayden's got to respond, or it's going to be a shit kicking. And I think the Commanders got the ball back, went like 3 and out, and it was just like they got the ball back, scored. I think they went down and scored, if I'm mistaken. They tried to like go for 2, didn't get it. Eagles scored again, and then the Commanders fumbled on the kickoff. That didn't help, and kind of just put them behind the 8 ball again. So they were playing catch up for the majority of the game. It got really Jayden looked like a rookie. I mean, there's really nothing else to really kind of put to it. He looked like a rookie. The Eagles, Vic Fangio's been doing a hell of a job with that defense. I mean, hell, they got 2 good corners. They got their D-line is on point. They got a good middle linebacker in Bond.
The best middle linebacker.
He's pretty good. I'm not saying the best, but it's very good. He's been playing out of his ass the entire year. This team, man, they're very good. Like rare at almost every position. If you look at D-line, corner, safety, running back, receiver, tight end, quarterback, like they're stacked. They got guys everywhere. So I know we're not really supposed to talk about it, but it's like you're kind of comparing apples to oranges on who they're going up against next week. And there's not really that many other boxes that the other team checks. I mean, I can think of one off the top of my head, that's quarterback, but what about everything else? I mean, the Eagles just never stopped. They just continued on and on and on and on, pretty much the rest of the game. And it was a party. You got to see guys like Will Shipley get in the game. You got Kenny Pickett was out there, and Will Shipley had a big scamper. Maybe that's foreshadowing what you'll see next year, in a couple years. Maybe he'll be the backup running back. We'll see. But you can't really. There's not really much to say. I mean, the Commanders were playing with house money the entire playoffs. No one expected them to even get this far. The Eagles kind of coming off of I wouldn't say a down year. They're coming off a disappointing year. For them to kind of, go all in and get Saquon Barkley off the Eagles fans definitely need to send Joe Shane a thank you card. Hey man, we appreciate you.
I love you.
We appreciate you what you did for us. Here's a bottle of champagne, all that. I don't know if you guys saw this. There was it resurfaced on Twitter when his son Joe Shane, the GM's son, was like, "Who should we draft?" He said Jayden Daniels. Kid might have been up to something there. I'm just saying. He might have been up to something there. But yeah, I think all Eagles fans need to send Joe Shane a thank you card, a Buffalo Wild Wings gift card, whatever it's something. Send him something. We appreciate you, big dog. We appreciate what you did for us. And Saquon has not looked back. I even saw Slay. He was on Richard Sherman's podcast, and he was talking about what he was seeing from him in training camp. He was like, "Oh yeah," he did like a little move. Like,
oh yeah,
he's like, "Oh yeah, he gonna be something." And I think it just the situation that he was in was so dog shit. Like it was so bad. I think his best year was when his rookie year was when they went to the playoffs and they had Odell and they did like the
boat, the yacht photo.
The yacht boat. That was like the only time I really got to see him like that. But Odell played like shit in that game, had a bunch of drops. And
yeah, the Giants have not been the same since that yacht photo was taken.
Yeah, that was like the only time we really got to see Saquon in the playoffs and like on a solid team. But he's playing on this team. He's got a shot to rush for 2,000 yards almost every year. So, I mean, got to give credit where credit is due. Hats off to the Eagles, man.
Saquon ran for 442 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns this season against the Commanders.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Played him 3 times.
Yeah, that's in 3 games. That's like
Still
100 and that's like 140 yards a game, damn near 135 yards.
It's a lot.
1.5 touchdowns per game, basically. Yeah, that is a lot. And
Eagles are. Oh, yeah. Rush defense for the Commanders, not that good.
Especially what they're paying out.
Yeah, exactly. And as Chicken said in the YouTube comments, sarcastically, I might add, there was an Eagles game Sunday against Washington, ? I thought that was just practice for our Super Bowl game. And then he goes on to say after I was talking about Zach Ertz, you're right, Ertz cooked, all the Eagles players showed up. Even the ex-members showed up. And also Cousin James has made his appearance in the YouTube comments in a congratulatory way, as he says, "Congratulations, Kevin and Kaz. Honestly, would rather see Saquon win one than a Chiefs three-peat. Y'all got my pick." Well, James is a better man than me because started rooting for it.
Hey man, the Avengers beat Thanos second time.
Crazy,
Don't forget
bro.
that.
Shaun, you're not doing it for a 3rd week, are you?
Of course he is.
So we're gonna dive into the upcoming Super Bowl in depth next week, but I'll just tease, as I already just did, that I'm just sending my condolences right now because Toddy and I went through this last year. We went through this exact same thing last year. We're getting our rematch in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. They're gonna beat them. and then they somehow don't. Whether if it's the referees, whether if it's the 49ers not knowing the overtime rules. Like, we have experienced this, and I'm just sorry that you guys have to experience it too, because it would have been better for you guys if you were playing the Bills in the Super Bowl. Instead, you're going up against the boogeyman. And I know that Kaz and Kevin, you strongly disagree with me, and we can save all of these debates for next week. And I'm kind of opening a can of worms here, but I instantly, and I'm not even bullshitting you, I'm not even trying to be a hater, but I instantly just felt bad for you guys when the Chiefs won last night. Because Toddy and I experienced this last year. We went through this whole song and dance already, getting a rematch against them. All right, I guess we'll have to wait and see, and I'll eat my words in 2 weeks if I'm wrong. But after experiencing this last year and being so confident as you guys are right now, we had our star running back. We had the best running back in the NFL last year, and they still lost. And Kaz, I see that smile. I hope that I'm wrong. For the sake of both of your fandoms, I hope that I'm wrong. Because as much as we joke and I become a hater on the podcast and I play into it like a WWE character, like when it comes to just like the genuineness of how I feel about both of you guys, I want you guys to be happy. Genuinely. I just don't think it's going to happen. And we'll leave it there.